Hello everyone. Today we are going to deal with at another session of simple stresses and strains. This is in this series I am taking the sixth class in this topic of stresses and strains, and it will be in the subject of engineering mechanics. So till now I have done more than 40 video classes in this subject. In this chapter this will be the sixth one. So if you refer the earlier classes, it will be in continuation with those classes, you will be better understanding. Here in the first class, in the earlier classes, we have dealt with these subtopics, that is what is simple stress, what is simple strain, and what are the units, and also what is a tensile force, what is a compressive force, that is when a force pulls the body or it tries to elongate the body, that type of force which acts axially is tensile force. Similarly, to opposite to that of tensile force is compressive force. That means the force acts along the axial line, the axis, and they will be acting collinearly to compress the body. Then they are compressive forces. That is, as a result of compressive force, there will be a decrease in length. We have seen this is a body which is pulled by forces P and P. Therefore, a stress is set up across any cross section. That cross sectional area offers resistance to the pull. Therefore, force by that cross sectional area gives the stress. We have seen also the basis of our stresses and strains, the Hooke's law, that is stress is proportional to strain within the elastic limit. That means, that says that if we trace the strain curve of any body, of any material, then we find that stress is proportional to strain within some elastic limit. After that elastic limit, it is not in a straight line, but up to elastic limit it will be a straight line. That is, stress and strain are linearly varying. So therefore, stress by strain is equal to some constant. That constant we call it as Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity. This we have seen earlier. And we have seen some examples of how to find the stress by knowing the force and area. That is, stress is equal to force by area. And also we find the strains, that is by knowing the change in length by original length, we have found the strains. Then by knowing the relationship between the stress and strain, that is stress by strain is equal to modulus of elasticity. Therefore, we have found modulus of elasticity or stress or strain or increase in length using these terms, the relations. We have seen that change in length is delta L is equal to PL by AE. That is, directly if we know the force P, length L, and area of cross section A, and modulus of elasticity E, then delta L, change in length, is equal to PL by AE. Depending upon P, whether it is compressive or compressive or tensile, we get either decrease in length or there will be elongation. We have also seen that E, modulus of elasticity, is stress by strain. Therefore, stress is force by area, therefore its units are Newton per mm square, and strain is a simple relation. It is a ratio, that is ratio between delta L and L, that is change in length by original length. So it doesn't have any units. Therefore finally we get modulus of elasticity's units are that are same as of that of stress. Therefore E is equal to Newton per mm square, that is same as that of stress, Newton per mm square. No need that it should be only Newton per mm square. It can be in any force by area units. Newton per mm square or Newton per kilonewton per mm square or Newton per meter square are such units, but it should be the force by unit by area units. We have also seen a problem of hollow circular section which is subjected to some load, and we have found out how to find the stress across that hollow circular section, that is a pipe or a tube. Also we have seen working stress and factor of safety, that is whenever we use the working stress, that is allowable or permissible stress, though we know that the material can have more stress, can bear more stress, but generally we take some factor of safety. Therefore we say the stress which is less than the ultimate stress or yield stress, which generally will be more by some factor. Therefore working stress is equal to ultimate stress by some factor of safety. Generally depending upon the material, the factor of safety will be taken. Then we have seen the bars of varying cross sections, that is initially we have seen the bars of uniform cross section, that is the prismatic throughout the length, but here we are seeing some portions, but though they are many portions, those portions are prismatic, at least they are uniform in their cross section up to certain extent, and from there will be either decrease or increase in the cross sectional area up to certain extent. So these portions which have different cross sectional areas have different stresses, because stress is dependent on area. So force by area is different and different. Since force is constant, area is different at different areas, then there will be a difference in stress, and also consequently there will be a strain will be different. Those such type of problems we have seen by taking the example of such figure, and we have seen that stresses are force by area 1, force by area 2, and force by area 3, and also strains is equal to PL by PL1 by A1E or P2 A2 by P2L2 or PL2 by A2E, PL3 by A3E. Since P is constant throughout the three sections, three portions of the section of the rod, therefore the applied force is constant. Such problems we have seen taking this example of 300 and 400 and 500 lengths, 50, 40 and 30 mm dia. We have seen few problems based on this conditions. Here we have seen some other principle called as principle of superposition. That is, when several forces act along the same line, then their effect will be same as the forces which act individually and their effects are added. That is, when number of forces acting along the same line, maybe that total effect on that body can be replaced by individual effects by individual forces. Since forces are acting collinearly, we can say their algebraic sum will be equal to the resultant. So the effect of that resultant is equal to the effect of individual forces. This is what the principle of superposition says. So for that we have seen a small example by of applying 150 kilonewtons load on 100 mm and 500 mm 1000 mm length and 500 mm square cross sectional area we have seen, and we have replaced this 150 mm by 100 mm and 50 mm separately, and we have seen the result and we have correlated them so that the principle of superposition is verified. Then here comes another important concept of free body diagrams. That is, whenever any structure or any body is in equilibrium, its components also should be in equilibrium. That is, the whole structure should be in equilibrium and also every component should be in equilibrium. Then only the structure is said to be equilibrium. Otherwise, structure in equilibrium and components are not in equilibrium, it is not possible. So based on that principle, if let us say some body which has three portions of A, B, B, C and C, D, here the principle of superposition comes into picture, because earlier we have seen the bars which are applied with only the forces at the ends. Here on a structure there is possibility that some forces are also applied at the intermediate portions. Then finding the stresses and finding their strains will be difficult, not possible, when we consider the entire structure. So we have to take the each component separately and find out the stresses and strains separately, and depending upon the usage we can add them algebraically. So here if we see P1 and P2 are two end forces and P3 and P4 are intermediate forces which are acting on the body at some portion. Let us say AB, BC and CD are three portions. On AB, which is the left portion, some left going force of P1 is acting. Similarly, P2 is acting. Generally for end portions, there won't be any problem. But we know for equilibrium conditions, sigma h should be equal to 0. That is, sigma horizontal forces should be equal to 0 because they are in the same plane and they are axial forces. That is, in a way they are collinear. Therefore, the left going forces are P1 and P4. So P1 and P4 should balance the right going forces which are P2 and P3. Therefore, P1 plus P4 should be equal to P2 plus P3. Then only this body will be in the state of equilibrium. And also, we want to find out the stresses in each portion. For that, we separate the portions and we see what are the forces acting on them, and we will find the stresses and strains separately on those portions. Therefore, separating each portion, For the equilibrium of left portion, if we consider the left portion, we have P1 force which is pulling the body. So to keep it in equilibrium, some other force should pull on the other side, so that minus P1, if we consider P1 to the left minus P1, there should be some plus P1 to the right, so that the body is in the state of equilibrium. Therefore here automatically the internal force will be P1. If P1 is moving outside, or it is pulling outside from towards left, there should be some internal force which keeps it equilibrium, so that the developed force, internal force, is plus P1, that is towards the right. Or if we look at, if this is P1, here the other forces are P3 and P2 to the right and P4 to the left. So P1 should be equal to P2 plus P3, P3 plus P2 minus P4. That is here we have written. So this is the free body diagram of the first portion. That is, we have removed that body from the entire structure, that is structure which consists of 3 different portions, and now we have found out what are the forces in that body. Therefore we can find out the stress and strain separately in this body. Now we know length and diameter of this body, so we know what is the force. That is, now it is P1. In the second case, if we separate this second portion BC, this is BC portion, we have, if we see this, let us say here we have cut, then here on the left we have the left going portion of P1 and right coming portion of P3. Then it is minus P1 plus P3. That should be equal to, because this force is pulling, the equal and opposite force should be here. That is, there should be P1 minus P1 plus P3 to the right, because it is going to the left. Therefore, to keep this body in equilibrium, the force which is going to the left should be equal to force going to the right. The force going to the left is minus P1 plus P3. That is, left going force P1 plus right going force P3. So here it should be equal, or it should be equal to P4 plus P2. The other 2 forces we have seen here, that for the equilibrium, P1 plus P4 should be equal to P2 plus P3. So shifting P3 here, P1 minus P3 is equal to P2 minus P4. So this is for the second, and for the third one also we don't have any problem, because we can clearly see it that this portion is pulled by P2. So automatically at C there should be equal and opposite force P2. But P2 is equal to, if we see the equilibrium equation, P2 is equal to P1 plus P4 minus P3. P1 plus P4 minus P3. So therefore either we can write P2 or P1 plus P4 minus P3. So this is how we analyze each and every part or component for its loading. Such division or such analysis separately is called as free body diagram. That diagram, we have to separate those parts, we have to draw the diagram, and we should analyze for forces. Such figures which we separate from the main structure, those bodies are called as free bodies. So this diagram which shows the component and also the forces is called the free body diagram. Thus, showing each portion separately with appropriate forces which are in equilibrium constitute the free body diagrams. We have seen a square bar which is subjected